Stand by for action. We're about to launch Stingray.
Stingray, 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 Stingray.
Hello, everyone. Good evening. Welcome to this very special live stream to celebrate the 60th anniversary of Stingray and to talk about the Deadly Uprising saga. I am going to be joined this evening by the range producer for Stingray Deadly Uprising, and that is AC. Hello, AC. How are you this evening?
Hey, Jack. How's it going? I am fabulous this evening. Couldn't be better, and just happy to dig in and celebrate Stingray's 60th anniversary with this Deadly Uprising saga. Can't wait to see what we've got in store.
Lovely stuff. And we've got some, of course, comments coming in already from everyone who has been getting excited and ready to celebrate with us this evening. So, of course, keep those comments coming in for us. We love to see it. Will we get John Coleshaw as Tootfish? Love that. Unfortunately, well, we will be seeing John later, because among the many things that we've got coming up this evening is, of course, going to be the live debut online of the Deadly Concerto performance from Stand By for Action 2 back in July. We're going to be playing that in just into this live stream, so look forward to that. But in general, we're going to be talking about the Deadly Uprising saga and all the stories so far. We're going to be going behind the scenes. We've got some special guests waiting in the wings who are going to be chatting with us all about their contributions, and we're also going to be looking ahead to what's coming up. But AC, for the people who've been living under the sea, under a rock, what is Stingray Deadly Uprising?
Well, for those people, I mean, they could have been taken prisoner by Titan, for example, and just been out of action for a while, but Deadly Uprising is a 60th anniversary celebration of Stingray, and it's told over a multi-platform story. So you've got live performance, a couple of novels, you've got a couple of comic anthologies, and a couple of audiobook versions of the novels as well, and a series of YouTube shorts called Marine Minutes. And it just ties together this overarching mammoth story celebrating everything we love about Stingray and what makes it so epic in a brand new adventure, the likes of which you've never seen before.
That's it, exactly. That's it, exactly. Very, very well put. It's almost like you've rehearsed that in your head many times, I'm sure. Wonderful. Well, just before we dive into Deadly Uprising, I first of all want to share a relatively new addition to the Jerry Anderson store, which is these lovely reissues of the Stingray mini albums. These are from back in the 60s, some original audio adventures that were recorded by the original cast back in the 60s. So we have Marina Speaks, Into Action with Troy Tempest, and A Trip to Marineville. So these have been reissued on vinyl. They look pretty much exactly as they did back in the day, but these are just nice, shiny new issues of them. Which is your favorite out of those three, AC?
Oh, it's tough to say, Jack, but Marina Speaks really is it's almost like a TV 21 comic strip come to life. It's the sort of thing they could have never done justice to in the series. The scale of it's just so massive, and every time I hear it, I think, wouldn't it be great to see a visual version of this? But the imagination in that way does its job very nicely. They've all got something to love, but I think Marina Speaks definitely has to be the top for me. What about you?
I mean, yes, Marina Speaks is definitely epic, but I think Into Action with Troy Tempest is quite good fun. Just because it is so unique. If you're not familiar with that copy of the vinyl, you also get a little script, and you, as the listener, get to perform a scene with, or several scenes, in fact, I think, with Troy Tempest, and you get to perform the dialogue for yourself. And it's the very early days of interactive experiences. Nothing quite like what we've got now, of course, but still very good fun and very, very charming. So yeah, definitely consider picking those up. So as far as Deadly Uprising is concerned, I just wanted to direct everyone's attention to the wonderful timeline that we have here, which shows you all of the different releases from the Deadly Uprising saga. Now, do not worry. If this looks like a lot, if this looks intimidating, all these new adventures and what order they come in and all this sort of thing, do not despair. For one thing, we've got AC here joining us to hopefully unravel any questions that you might have. So feel free to post those comments in the chat, and we will try to answer as many questions as possible. But also, it's worth remembering that all of these individual pieces, whilst they do add up to a larger story, certainly, they can also be enjoyed individually. And, they stand alone, much like any other, original Stingray TV episode can stand alone as its own adventure quite nicely. It's worth pointing out that these do as well. And AC, perhaps you can tell us a little bit about the process when you were putting this whole project together. How did you try and balance sort of telling a continuing narrative all the way through versus making sure that all these pieces could be enjoyed individually as well?
I think one of the key things when it came to doing that, Jack, was that when we had the overall framework for Deadly Uprising, it was broken down into several sections, and each of those had a distinctive start and end point that would be perfect for an individual story, and yet would also make a fantastic place to join on the next part of the story. And it was just finding where those points fell in relation to the overall narrative. So, for example, we have two fantastic novels written by Chris Dale and Bob Ayres, which are novel-length stories, and they're brilliant individually, but yet somehow they're even more enjoyable when you put them within the framework of the entire narrative as a whole. But in order to do that successfully, you have to place them in an area where they're going to work. You couldn't just have sort of two novels back to back and then do everything else in different mediums after that, because it would feel like suddenly you've gone from massively detailed vistas and narratives to suddenly everything's all quite segmented. So the framework of the narrative really helped in that respect. And I think what we've been able to do is very much, as you've said there, design something that people can dip in and out of if they want to, or if they want to enjoy the whole thing, there's a very handy little roadmap or water map, I guess, as it were, that they can follow if they wish.
Absolutely, yes. No, as I say, it's very well balanced, and I've been kind of myself dipping in and out of different parts of the story, not necessarily in the right order. I know, I'm sorry, AC, I've not been doing it in order, but I tell you what, each piece still works beautifully on its own. So absolutely, totally agree with what you've been saying. I've been enjoying in the chat a few people talking about having a Stingray rubber duck. Or indeed a Thunderbird 4 rubber duck. But we're not talking about Thunderbird 4 rubber ducks today. For goodness sake. We're committed to talking Stingray. And one of the highlights that's coming up for this stream is that we are going to be talking about Deadly Concerto, which was the Well, perhaps one of the best people to actually tell us about Deadly Concerto is none other than one of the actors who performed in it, perhaps Troy Tempest himself, Marc Silk.
Good evening, Jack. Good evening, Marina. That's right, Commander
How are
Shaw.
you?
I'm great. I also want a Stingray rubber duck.
Well, let's petition Jamie. Let's make it happen.
Why are we wasting our time doing this when we could be organizing a Stingray rubber duck for the world?
Let's do it.
That's great. Yeah, no, thanks for bringing me in, Jack. I was so excited watching those opening titles. Whoever put those titles together at the beginning of this stream, congratulations. It was fantastic. Yeah, the Deadly Concerto, being part of that was something so special. I mean, the show in full, Stand By for Action 2, was quite a spectacle at Birmingham Symphony Hall a few months ago. I was lucky enough to actually, my starting point is I'm a fan. So I sat in the audience for the first half. And then part two, when Deadly Concerto arrived, I was on stage with the rest of the cast, and we performed this brand new episode of Stingray live for a few thousand people. It was captured on Blu-ray. It would look lovely and shiny. And it was, you can imagine for me, we're all fans of Stingray. We're all fans of this show. So to go from being the kid that ran home very fast to watch Stingray on TV in my lunchtime here in Birmingham, to actually be on stage performing as Troy next to Marina, was a dream come true. And stick around in the stream, because when you see this live performance, I haven't seen it back yet. So I'm as excited as you are to see the whole thing come together. But Marina live which I think she might have just been the star of the show.
Yes, absolutely. Not to spoil too much for anyone, but you definitely want to be watching out for Marina. So AC, tell us how did the decision come about to kick off the whole Deadly Uprising saga with a live performance? What an incredible opportunity.
Well, I think that was really down to Nick Briggs, who wrote the script for it, Jack. And I was actually brought on board as range producer for Deadly Uprising after Deadly Concerto had been written. So that was our starting point for the entire narrative. And I think that Nick's vision for it was, it's going to be a concert. We're going to have an audience. It's going to be live. Everything's going to be a little more energized, a little more, dare I say, a little more zany than may otherwise be applied to the narrative. But, we want the audience to laugh. We want them to cheer. We want them to do things that they may not necessarily do during an average Stingray episode. Although, of course, we do hope that they cheer through a Stingray episode. But, you get the jokes, you get the pauses. And as Mark knows, the audience was electric on the evening. Yeah. And I think that's really just what makes Deadly Concerto one of my favorite parts of the narrative, is that we did have that audience participation a little bit in that we got to get the feedback of energy directly from them. And that is very much what Nick put into his script and what he hoped would happen on the night.
Yes,
I was going to say, it's great
to see someone in the people in the chat who were there at the performance and still, all these months later, remember it well. So hope you guys will look forward to reliving it a little bit later on when we play it in for you. Sorry, Mark, you were going to say.
It was just backing up what AC just said. The vibe in the room, the atmosphere from that audience was absolutely electric. When each of us, the performers, walked on stage and just said, "My name is," and I'm performing, they went nuts. They went nuts, and it'll be interesting to see how much you captured. You'll hear it on the thing, but I just said, "Hello, my name is Marc Silk, and I'm the voice of Troy Tempest." And they went, "Wah!" And you go, "Yes, it's Troy." What could be better? But again, you wait till you see Marina.
Absolutely, yes. Well, we look forward to that. Mark, thank you very much for joining us. We'll be bringing you back a little bit later on, but for now, you can put your feet up in the green room, maybe enjoy some seaweed tea or whatever it is we've got back there. I wouldn't know. But Mark, thank you very much. We'll see you a little bit later. Okay, so Deadly Concerto, moving in right along. We've got to keep moving along here. We're going to be talking about the next big chapter, which is Titanic and Stratagem, written by Chris Dale, of which the audiobook is actually out today. Beautiful, beautiful bit of timing there. And who better, of course, to talk to us about their own book than, why, of course, it's Mr. Chris Dale. Hello.
Oh, hello there. Hello, everybody. Hello. How are you doing?
We are doing great. It's wonderful to chat to you. How does it feel having your first? I believe this is your first novel that has been published, and today the audiobook comes out. How does it all feel?
It's very strange. It's very surreal, but it's very good. Yeah. I never thought this would quite be a thing, but I'm very glad that it is, and I'm glad that so far people seem to be enjoying it, because it makes it all worthwhile.
Yes. Well, lots of people very, very pleased to see you this evening. So
hello,
lovely, everyone. Great to see all your comments. So Titanic and Stratagem. Yes, I am myself. I have my copy right here. I must confess, again, I've been talking about how I've been experiencing this whole saga in the wrong order. I am currently halfway through reading this because I'm a very slow reader. But I have been really enjoying. It's a little bit heavy, I have to say. Maybe you could have, written a little bit. No, I'm kidding. Honestly, I love the amount of detail that you go into. You capture the voice of these characters so well. And I'm wondering, is there anything, any particular character or moment or aspect of Marineville life that you were looking forward to exploring when you sat down to write this epic tale?
I think just the whole world and all of the characters. I think I said that I would try to get every character who was in more than one episode in there somewhere. I didn't quite do it. There's one character I didn't mention, but yeah, it's just going through, spending time with and in the heads of all of the regulars, even right down to characters like the Marineville doctor and the idiot security guards on the main gate, just giving them all little moments, because it's, as I've said with other Anderson projects, it's the most wonderful toy box, and you get to actually sort of pick up and write, I'm going to write a story for this character. Obviously he's not in Stingray, but he's the closest thing I had to hand. And there is just this wonderful sense of freedom and also sort of responsibility, really, to take these characters and settings that you've known and loved for so long, and give them new adventures and new life. It's great.
Yeah. Absolutely. Lovely comment here. Chris, one hell of a good book. Character development was terrific. Thank you.
Thank you. That's lovely.
Please do, everyone, keep your comments coming in for Chris, because we love to see them. Apparently, you've been helping out people on Twitter as well. So
yes,
well done there. Congratulations.
In relation to the ghost ship, I think that might have been, yes. Well,
possibly. You're just on call. It's someone sends up the Anderson equivalent of the bat signal, and Chris comes in to help out at any moment.
It's either me or AC. Yes,
this is true.
It is just so much fun playing with the characters, and regardless of whether or not the story is any good, I know these characters. I can write stuff for them to do and say, and it's such fun.
Yeah, and of course, new characters as well coming along in Titanic and Stratagem. Sarah Coral as well. What can you tell us a little about her?
Well, we were sort of chatting about what would be good hooks for this overall narrative, and we thought, new character, something fresh into the mix, and I don't quite remember how we came about with the final idea of a security officer, a new Marineville security officer, but it was a group effort. And again, it's just something that, as I said, there's so much fun playing with existing characters, but it's also fun to create a new person and try to fit them into that world, and maybe make it so that it's not a very smooth introduction to her for that. She has problems, but she makes it in the end. That's
what I love. You take the time to explore all those different aspects to her, and in her introduction, you talk about not only her kind of coming in to do a job, but also how does she fit in with the other Marineville regulars and things like that. You know, it's such a tight knit group.
Yeah.
You really take the time to explore. It just makes a place like Marineville feel much more real and like a community that she's coming into. So yeah, it's wonderful.
Well, I
Wonderful
realized
stuff.
that
I really
like
enjoy it.
99% of the people who are going to pick this up are going to be familiar with the show, but for the few who won't be, instead of just saying Marineville is a place where this obvious thing happens that we all know about, and Stingray is a submarine. Did you know that? It was sort of like, let's explain this world through the eyes of a new character to whom it doesn't quite make sense, because it is just that little bit too cozy to be real. But
yes,
it is real,
as
and
Paul Davis points out, hopefully new security officer has better training than the security guard on the gate.
Well, that's why
you make
there.
that
You
make that a whole kind of plot point. Not to spoil
Yes.
or give away too much, but
and also
yes,
give that guard a name.
Exactly.
Yes.
So it's really fantastic. Chris, thank you so much for joining us to chat about Titanic and Stratagem. Any highlights you want to point out for the audiobook that came out today? Wayne Forrester narrated.
Well, he does such a good job, doesn't he? But as you'll see later in the Deadly Concerto, I do love his phones and his X20. But he's done all the characters justice, because I think AC, you gave him clips, didn't you, of a lot of them? Some of them were obscure ones.
Absolutely, yes. He's very familiar with the ones that he's done for our other Stingray novels. But some of these characters that you've included, Chris, brilliantly, these little sort of side characters we've only seen a couple of times. I give him the voice references for those, and he's done a fantastic job. I think people are going to be tickled when they actually hear these characters in the audiobook, and there's a lot to look forward to there.
And there's a couple of moments as well where I try to like end a chapter on a cliffhanger, and almost I try to make myself hear a bit of Barry Gray music in my head, sort of, you know, pre-advert break, and he really sells the drama in those moments as well. So yeah, it's good stuff all around.
Yep. And we've already got people who are picking up their copies of the audiobook as well. Yes. So that's wonderful to hear. So I hope everyone enjoys that. And Chris, thank you very much for joining us to chat about.
You're very welcome.
It's been lovely to have you. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, I cut Chris off there. I do apologize. Some of the errors of live broadcasting. So next up, we've got to keep moving because there's so much to cover. I'm sorry, there just is. So next up, we're going to be talking about the comic anthology, which again, I've got my copy of it right here, and it's oh my goodness me, what a tome! It's so full of comic excellence. Again, of course, I've got a guest lined up for us to chat to about this. And of course, it's designer of the cover and artist for the comic strips as well. It's Keith Burns, everybody. Hello, Keith.
Hello. How's it going? Nice to be here.
We're doing great. Yeah, it's great to have you. Thank you so much for joining us. First of all, AC, tell us a little bit about the comic anthology as a whole. I know that Anderson Entertainment has produced several other comic anthologies along the way, but perhaps there was something special about this one that you wanted to highlight for us all.
Well, absolutely, yes. The comic anthology #1, Volume 1, also subtitled Tales from the Depths. We wanted to include all of the wonderful TV Century 21 comics that everyone loves and remembers from the original TV Century 21 comic from the 60s. And of course, Stingray debuted in that very first issue #1, right back in the beginning, with a glorious double-page color spread right in the center of the comic there. And as you've mentioned, Jack, we have done several original comic anthologies already. We've done the Fireball anthology. We've had Space 1999. We've had a couple of UFO and Terrorhawks. And we thought, no, we've got to do Stingray TV 21 for the 60th anniversary. That's something we've got to do. But also, what a wonderful opportunity to include part of the Deadly Uprising story as new comics as well, because with Stingray having such a rich comic heritage, well, it would kind of be crazy not to include a few comics in the narrative. So we decided, yes, we'll do this. And believe me, so many talented writers and artists have worked. We like, I could spend half the stream going through each one of them, but unfortunately, time just does not permit. But since Keith is here, we'll be chatting with him in a moment about his wonderful artwork that adorns this lovely volume. And indeed, as you've also mentioned, Jack, one of the strips inside this particular volume, which is called "Warning Below the Waves." So that's really what we're looking forward to.
Exactly. So Keith, how did you kind of come on board with this project among all the other wonderful artists that we have working on this? But Keith, you provided the front cover. It's very much your artwork is the first thing that you see. How does that feel?
Well, I think it was a bit cheeky on that one, wasn't it? Because AC got in touch about doing some of the interior artwork. And obviously, because I tend to specialize in like World War II aviation stories, I've ended up going down that strange little niche route. But what I've learned over the years is how to make vehicles and aircraft, whatever it might be, look like they're properly moving. So trying to capture the kind of kinetics and physical energy of flight, and that transfers perfectly well into Stingray. And obviously, like most of us, I grew up watching reruns of Stingray with my siblings and absolutely loved it. And it's that weird thing where you're looking at it and you're thinking, is it real? Are the people real? When you're on that sort of age where you can't quite tell. When I got the opportunity to do that, I was delighted. And then I was looking at the amount of action that Ben's managed to cram into the 6 pages that I got to do. I couldn't get my head around it. It was like I had to design so many things, like settings, and then I had to do that amazing the octopus kind of submarine, which I kind of went a bit mad on. I did loads of sketches on that, just trying to work out how it worked. So although I was really enjoying all that, I thought there was the action in there, but there wasn't a lot of Stingray fighting anything. You wanted, it was kind of Stingray comes in and it saves, and no spoilers or anything. But so what I thought was, I wonder who's doing the covers and if I could get some sort of action shot. And that's why I was just cheeky and just asked. I said, "Is there any chance?" And then luckily it worked out.
Yeah, and it is absolutely gorgeous, and it does a great job, I think, of capturing that classic TV21 style while also doing something really new with it. I love, particularly in your artwork, Keith, the sort of, I want to say, like fairy tale aesthetic that it has going on for it. There's just something about it that I think is very unique. And I think this comic anthology has been a fantastic opportunity to showcase lots of different artwork. I have to kind of toot my own horn a little bit and say I very much enjoyed, because I contributed to the story myself to this, which was Shadows from the Deep, which was illustrated beautifully by Brian Williamson, and he just absolutely nailed it. AC, who are some of the other artists that added new stories to this anthology? Give us the full list.
The full list. Well, as you've mentioned, of course, we've got Brian Williamson, who worked on your story, Jack, and I believe that's on the left-hand side of the screen at the moment. Mm-hmm. And the center page there is Keith's artwork for Ben's story, Ben Page, who wrote Warning Below the Waves. And then the one on the right-hand side is Lee Sullivan's wonderful artwork for Ian Eddington's story, Voyage to Danger, which was colors by Connor Flanagan, and the captions, I believe, on that were done by Emily Joyce Stewart. So so many people working on this. And we've also got James Swallow has written a story for us, which was illustrated by Matt Brooker, and Chris Thompson, our good friend Chris Thompson, also wrote the final of, well, it's actually the fourth of the 5 stories, which is called Shifting Seas, and that was illustrated by John McCrae. So that's, so much in there and added to the existing TV 21 stories. Gosh, it's
a big book. It's a heavy book. And worth saying, and we'll talk about this a little bit later on, but this is the first of 2 comic anthologies for Stingray that we have. So there's more to come. I mean, it's crazy how much new Stingray stuff that we're getting this year. It's extraordinary. It's wonderful. AC, what's it like to work with people like Keith and see all this new artwork coming in. I mean, you must just look at it and go, wow, I'm in a very lucky position here.
Like, no joke, it is unbelievable. Like, I've got the easy job. All I have to do is say, oh yes, I would like this many talented people, and I would like them to work really, really hard, and just basically send me all their hard work so I can look at it and say, yeah, okay, we'll just put it in this order, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, that'll work. Yeah, that'll work.
Or occasionally you might be like, oh, I'm sorry, could we have another like terrorfish blowing up or something?
Yes.
Would that be okay?
Precisely.
I
mean,
Keith will, for example, Keith will send me an amazing piece of artwork, and I'll look at it and go, oh my gosh, that is like the most amazing thing that I've ever seen. The only thing that I would say, could you maybe give us like one more of these, or could this maybe be over here? And then I sort of hear myself saying it and think, oh gosh, I've just given this guy an awful lot more work to do. That's really not fair. But people are going to love it. They really are.
No, it's really it is a bit tougher on the receiving end when you kind of because it partly is the kind of pressure you put on yourself, because you know, I love Stingray that much. I'm thinking, oh my God, I really want to do this job. But then also, it's absolutely terrifying. You think of it, you know, saying all the other artists that are in the comics, and then also trying to do justice to the original story, you know, because they're trying to get things technically accurate. And then the thing that I struggled with the most, I think, was trying to get that middle ground between making them look like the puppets, but then also like their own kind of, like, not like the puppets, so they're like humans in the story. And trying to strike that balance was really quite tricky. Yeah. So the bits where you were asking, you know, to add an extra bit of this or move that was all the easy stuff. You know, that's not that faffy at all. I've got just out of interest. There's the original page. It's up there just so you can see what kind of size.
Wow.
It's just kind of lovely. About kind of A3 size or a bit smaller, but it hasn't got it's because it's all painted by hand. But it's still got the masking tape on. If you see. That's how I work out all the panels. So I've yet to peel that off. That's probably one of the most enjoyable bits, is peeling all the tape off and then revealing the white lines. People
a chance to see that nice and close up. There we go.
Oh, look at that! Look at
wow.
that!
No, it was really heavenly to work on, especially getting Sting, because I love painting chrome anyway, and the idea that Stingray's there's a lot of chrome on there was delightful.
Yeah,
and then there's one of the bits, actually, with the original cover. See, I'd added this bit in, and then that was one of the bits we had to take out, wasn't it?
That's right. Yeah, the nose cone of Stingray, just because we thought it was going to get a little bit lost behind the title once we put the title in there. But just absolutely stunning artwork. Look at that all day.
Oh, nice, thanks.
Yeah,
but yeah, it's interesting. Nice. I kind of like that as part of the process. The bits that you can kind of see, because especially all the AI stuff that goes on these days, I like leaving almost mistakes and like pencil marks and stuff in there, so you can see it's done by somebody's hand, including all the errors. And
absolutely,
always got plenty of errors in there.
Yeah. Oh no, we love to see it. Yeah. Well, Keith, thank you so much for sharing that with us. That was great to see. And yes, that is the Stingray Comic Anthology, Volume 1 of 2. The second one we'll be talking about in a little bit. But Keith, thank you very much for joining us this evening. It's been great to chat. Thank you so much.
Thanks very much. Pleasure. Take care.
Take care. So, next up, we're going to be talking about Marine Minutes. AC, what is a Marine Minute exactly?
Well, Jack, if I'm remembering my episode 1 of Stingray correctly, and I hazard to point out that I may not be, I believe a Marine Minute is about 2 Tyrrhenian minutes. No, I'm kidding. Well, it probably is, but that's not really what you're asking. Now, Marine Minutes was a concept for Deadly Uprising that actually developed quite late in the process. We were quite well into development, and Jamie approached me one day and said, how would I like to do these YouTube shorts called Marine Minutes, just telling a few sort of minutes of a time at the time of the Stingray Deadly Uprising narrative. And I thought for a minute and said, yeah, well, we could repurpose existing clips from the series, and we can get the audiobook cast to record new dialogue for those. And yeah, it should work okay. Not realizing what a rod for my own back I was making for myself with that. But it actually ended up being the perfect opportunity to flesh out little bits of the narrative that we'd left maybe a little bit ambiguous or maybe hadn't been fully developed. So these little video clips are sort of designed to slot in throughout the narrative and just enhance. There's the sound of sirens on screen at the moment. And it actually takes place before Deadly Concerto. So we'll see how that plays out in a little while. But it was just fun coming up with these ideas and then recording with our lovely cast and getting them to give their all to the performances for these characters that we know and love, and just sort of give another visual flavor to Deadly Uprising, really. So it's been really good fun to work on those. And the first 5 episodes currently available on the Jerry Anderson YouTube channel. Episode 6 should be coming very soon. And we will have 2 final episodes just coming out around about the time that Comic Anthology 2 is released, which helped to tie up the story as well.
Yeah. And as you said, you got the opportunity to spend some more time with our lovely voice actors for Stingray. So I think it's appropriate that we invite back in. Why, of course, it's Troy Tempest, Marc Silk. Hello.
Hey, how are you?
Haven't seen you for a while.
It's been a while. It's nice to see you again.
Yes. So, Mark, what was it like kind of getting together with everyone just to record these little bits and pieces to fit into the saga?
It was brilliant fun. And really just picking up on what's been said by other people throughout this, it was so true. It's so true to the originals. The writing is bang on the money. It's dialogue that Troy and the other characters would say, especially Marina, obviously. But it's you feel like it's a continuation of Stingray. It is so true to the source, and it's an absolute. As a fan, it was a stroke of genius to see the dialogue we recorded for a brand new story be cut, having original footage cut into this. It feels so authentic. It's new. It is. But it is so good. By the way, thank you, Robert Slater. I love that voice, Mark. It gives me shivers. Well, that's great. Listen, Rob, I'll have even more shivers when I get my Stingray rubber duck. But when you see these episodes, I really, really encourage you to go to the YouTube channel, the Anderson YouTube channel, and watch each of these Marine Minute episodes, because it's been put together so well. And I mean, how long did it take you to? I haven't had a chance to ask you this. How long did it take you to actually find the footage to fit so well? Because you've done a great job of this.
Oh, thank you so much, Mark. That means an awful lot coming from the captain himself. It was kind of an organic process. I'm one of those guys who has sort of an absorbing mind when it comes to visual things, especially the likes of Stingray. And I just tend to remember scenes throughout the series. So a lot of that, when I was writing it, I kind of had an idea where I would draw each clip from. So I didn't write anything where I knew there was going to be absolutely nothing that could represent that in visual form. And then sometimes it's a little bit of trial and error. The most difficult thing is actually getting the lip sync to perfectly, or more or less perfectly match the lines. And sometimes I have to cheat that a little bit by maybe reversing the footage and then playing it forwards to make them sort of like open and close their mouths for long enough. And if you know Stingray really well, sometimes you might spot when that happens. But for the most part, hopefully it just seems to be a seamless experience, very much brought to life by all your wonderful voices, of course.
Well, thank you. Well, thank you, sir. But it is any fan of Stingray, or even a new fan, a potential new viewer, a lifelong viewer of Stingray, will be able to just pick this up, watch it, and enjoy it for what it is, which is just, it's a great little few minutes of action.
Exactly. AC, question for you. Indra asks, where does it fit in the Stingray TV timeline? Now, I assume he's asking about the saga as a whole, but any insights on that, or whether it's sort of alongside, or is there a definitive answer to that question, I guess, is what I want to know.
Well, it's it is very much within the Stingray TV timeline. You could almost say that depending on what order you like to watch Stingray in, I would just assume that it's the next episode after Aquanaut of the Year, which is often aired last in the running order. So it's within the walls of the timeline. We're not saying that it's set several years in the future or anything along those lines. It's very much within the constraints of what the timeline of the TV series is.
That makes sense. Yeah, exactly. It's just it's in there somewhere. I mean, if anyone can point to a clear-cut timeline for any of the Anderson series, good luck with that anyway, because continuity is just a mess. Ian here. Marc Silk is Troy Tempest.
Why
Here.
Congratulations.
And this
Mark,
is
actually,
Troy Tempest.
I did want to ask you, like, obviously Don Mason was the original voice of Troy
course.
Tempest for the
Yeah.
TV series. And I think many of us grew up with that voice in our ears. So
I did.
what was it like to kind of take that performance, do your own thing with it, but try and honor the original as well? Was there anything kind of specific that you did in that process?
Well, the good thing for me was I got to watch a lot of Stingray to make sure I got it just right. But in the end, it's Don Mason is Troy Tempest, the original Troy Tempest. He's the one that we take our lead from. But what's great with this is I think the real lead comes from the writing, because the Troy Tempest is so well honed as a character. When me being brought in to perform Troy, of course I'm doing my tip of the hat to Don Mason. Of course I am, but there's only one Don Mason. But there's only one Troy Tempest, and whoever is in charge of writing that particular episode and putting the whole thing together, it's bigger than any of us. So you kind of you step in, and I did the absolute best I can to represent him as a fan in a way that I would enjoy too.
Wonderful. Yeah, that's great to hear. Let's see. I just want to make sure I'm keeping up with all the chat. I mean, people really are set on getting the Doug wants a twin pack of rubber ducky, stingray, and a terrorfish. I mean, Doug,
Yes,
let's try and get
please.
one. Let's get one of these things made before we ask for more.
Cake, Stingray cake.
Stingray cake. Oh, Mark, God, don't get us started on that.
Stand by for candles.
Well, we actually do have a little job for you now, Mark, and because we're going to play in the first episode of Marine Minutes.
Oh, my
Sound of
word.
Silence, for everyone to watch.
Yes.
But we also have a little bit of a challenge for our viewers, which is we're going to be asking you a question, and in the chat it's going to be a question about the episode of Marine Minutes that we're going to play in momentarily. You have to be listening and watching very, very closely. Mark here is going to ask you a question about the episode, and if you could give your answer in the chat while the episode is being played out, then the winner will get a congratulatory message from Troy Tempest himself. So,
Well, it's true.
Mark,
What a thrill.
Mark, what is the question that we want our lovely viewers to answer?
Now, I'm looking at it right here. Where is my question?
Well, it's
here we
right
go,
up
here we
on
go.
the screen.
I have it. It's here. It's here. It's here. Oh, my word. Okay, the question is, for Marine Minutes, one question for you. We ask it now, yes?
Oh, yes.
Stand by for a question. Which device picks up the unknown sound wave according to the amphibian captain? That is, once again, for 10 Stingray points. Which device picks up the unknown sound wave according to the amphibian captain?
Lovely stuff. Okay, so we're going to play in episode 1 of Marine Minutes, Sound of Sirens, and let us know in the chat if you have an answer to that question.
Greenville, I am in the map station. Anything can happen in the next half hour.
Mechanical Fish 7, calling Titanica. Come in, Titanica.
This is Titan. What have you to report, Mechanical Fish 7?
We have detected unknown sound wave on Aqua Scanner.
An enemy craft?
No, it sounds like music.
What kind of nonsense is this? Do you take me for a fool?
No, mighty Titan. It is true. It is music. Music. Must follow the music.
Mechanical Fish 7, return to your patrol route immediately. I gave you a direct order. You will obey the command of Titan.
It appears that the mechanical fish has been destroyed, Your Excellency.
I can see that, you wretched fool. I want to know why and how.
And by whom?
That goes without saying. Whoever dared to attack one of my vessels shall suffer the full measure of my wrath. There will be nowhere they can hide in all the 7 seas.
A craft is approaching Titanica. It is coming from the direction of the destroyed mechanical fish.
So, this new enemy has chosen destruction. Prepare all perimeter defenses.
Right away, my lord.
Wait! Perhaps this is an opportunity, X20.
An opportunity, yes. An opportunity for what?
Think of it. A weapon that cannot be seen, yet it was evidently effective enough to destroy one of my powerful mechanical fish. With such a weapon at my disposal, I may at last be able to rid myself of the accursed Troy Tempest and the pathetic Stingray. Silence! This is no time for laughter. Send a message to the approaching vessel. Tell them the mighty Titan bids them welcome and says that there is much to be discussed.
Marina, Aqua Marina, why don't you say that you'll always stay close to my heart?
Well,
now whose beautiful voice was that who was singing along there?
I
Sounded very
couldn't possibly
familiar.
say.
Well, exactly. We've had quite a few people getting the correct answer, needless to say. We did have, it looks like the very first person to sort of almost get it was Doug Morris with the Aqua Scan question mark.
Really?
So I want to
Really?
give a shout out to Doug just for doing a good job, but I think it's fair to say that Devourer of Tea got the correct answer earliest. So, Troy, if you wouldn't mind.
Well, of course. The question once more is which device picks up the unknown sound wave according to the amphibian captain? And the correct answer is Aqua Scanner. Congratulations, Devourer of Tea, and the many other people who guessed correctly, including Roger Morgan, who said the Aqua Scanner looked like a Tupperware salad bowl.
Yes. Very well observed. You know what? That's
Dare
probably
they?
that's probably
How
exactly
dare
what it was.
they? But it may have done. Nice observation, sir.
Yes. But yes, we had lots of people guess
Great.
correctly. So well done to everyone. And a very good sport there, Mr.
Very.
Devourer of Tea. Love the profile picture as well. So that was that. Lovely stuff. Well, thank you, Mark, for joining us to chat about Marine Minutes and for
Thank you for
giving
having
us your Troy Tempest. And I'm sure you're going to be staying to watch the Deadly Concerto performance along.
Well, I'm
with
here. I'm
everyone else.
watching.
All right. Well, we look forward to that. Thank you very much, Mark. Appreciate having you here.
Thanks a lot.
Okay, so moving straight on, we have to keep moving because there's so much to cover. If you're just joining us, we are talking all about the Stingray Deadly Uprising saga, which has been put together by Mr. Andrew Clements, who is joining me on the stream this evening, and we're doing this all to celebrate 60 years of Stingray. And amazing that 60 years later, there are new Stingray stories being released literally today. AC, which part of the saga came out today that you could perhaps tell us about?
Well, do you want me to spill the beans, Jack? Because I'm certainly happy to do that. We are delighted.
Absolutely.
Delighted to announce that Project Orca, our second novel written by the wonderful Bob Ayres, has been released today, so that you can order that and enjoy another absolutely cracking Stingray story. But I'm not going to give anything away because that's not up to me to decide. So what's coming next, Jack?
Well, of course, we are going to chat with author Bob Ayres. Hello, Bob. Good evening.
Good evening. Good evening, gentlemen.
You've got your copy right there. First of all, I not to reveal too much about what's inside the book, so perhaps we could talk a little bit about what's on the front of the book. How does it feel to see that front cover with your name on it right there?
AC gave me a sneak preview, and my first reaction was, "That's cool," because it's just an image from the story. Is it Marcus Stamps who does the design?
I think this one would have been done by. This is slightly embarrassing that I have forgotten, because the thing is, there are
dangers
so
of live broadcasting.
but yes, Marcus often does the covers, and I know that our good friend Robert has also worked very hard on assembling some of these releases as well.
Yeah,
but it's
definitely a big
job.
team.
It's a beautiful thing.
Yeah. So, Bob, you were kind of brought in. Obviously, the Deadly Uprising saga at this point has been, kind of going, and all these other authors and artists have been providing their pieces. So, you're brought in at kind of this, I think, about midway point. How do you kind of come in and approach, like, okay, I've got to pick up where all these other people have left off? What's that like as a writing challenge?
It wasn't quite like that. So the whole of the saga was sort of planned out by AC and other people right from the start. And so there were kind of each different part of the story. There was a kind of a brief description. So I had about 150 words that I was given to say, this is what happens in what's got to happen in your part of the story, your part of the saga. So I could see from the kind of brief descriptions of all the other parts of the story, so I could see where mine fit. But also, as I was starting, Chris Dale was writing his novel, and he sent me through summaries of kind of his whole outline of the whole thing. So I had that to look at, and then AC started sending me through the scripts of the comics, which led up to my story as well. So as I was writing, I was getting all this information through. So by the time I'd written my outline, and by the time I was actually writing the first draft, I had pretty much a good idea of what was going on beforehand. So it didn't. I mean, the biggest problem was, so my story picks up after a big cliffhanger at the end of the Voyage Danger, the last comic strip in the comic anthology, and it's a big cliffhanger. I don't know if people have seen it, but it's a big one. And I was scratching my head for ages trying to think, well, how do I get out of that? That was my biggest problem. I actually created a problem for Chris as well, because I wanted to use a character. I clearly hadn't read his outline closely enough, because I wanted to use a character in my story that he had imprisoned at the end of his story. So there was a bit of to and fro and he very, very kindly agreed to change the end of his story so that I could use that character in mine. And then also later, about halfway through the writing of it, AC emailed to say, oh, and by the way, there's a bit of romance developing in Titanic and Stratagem, which you might like to include in your story as well. But generally speaking, I had a good idea right from the start what was going to happen.
Yeah, but you definitely had to adapt to some things as they were coming along, which is great. I love that everyone was able to work that closely together, that you were able to kind of make those changes along the way. That's great. And I of course, it's right there on the cover, so we can talk about the Orca. Tell us a little bit about bringing in that new submarine into proceedings. What was that process like?
Again, there was a bit of to and fro over that as well, because I started thinking. So I just had the description was there's this new submarine called Orca, and so there was no kind of description of it when I started thinking about it. So I had a description in my head and had visualized it how I thought it would look in my head. But then Chris Thompson had already been working on the technical manual, so he had a kind of a first draft of Orca, which we see on the front of the cover there. So he sent me a picture of that, and I mean, it wasn't quite what I was expecting, because I thought, whoa, that's quite different. So again, I sort of had to rethink about the description for my story, obviously. But again, there was a bit of to and fro about how big is it, how many decks would it have if it was that the size I want it to be. So again, it was again of a collaborative process, I think, between all the various creative people who are sort of involved with it.
Yeah,
but I mean, it was
wonderful.
great fun, sort of trying to do. Yeah, so unlike Stingray, I don't think this is a spoiler, but unlike Stingray, Orca has a larger crew, and there's a bit of fun sort of coming out of having a larger crew.
Yeah. Oh, that's great. I wanted to get to a question from one of our viewers as well. Emma here asked, when it came to the Stingray books and writing them, did you ever get writer's block? Is there anything, any challenges like that along the way? Or was AC so punishing as a producer that he insisted, no, you must keep writing?
Well, so the way we worked on this was, so by the time I pitched my ideas to AC, and he was very sort of stony faced through the pitch meeting, and you know, like he is now, he had all the Tracy brothers behind him and Lady P there sort of staring at me. Yeah, completely deadpan all through my pitch. And I was going, this happens and this happens, and an explosion, and then it got to the end of it, and I went, that's my story. And then he sort of came out in a big smile and said how much he liked it, and it was great. Phew. So I already had the outline. So then I had to write a kind of a full beat by beat outline, which I sent off to ITV to be signed off, and then started writing the full thing. So by the time I actually came to writing it, it had been pretty much, the story had been pretty much thought through. So didn't get writer's block in that way. Also, interestingly, on this one, usually when you write something, you will deliver a first draft. But AC asked me to once it's finished, but AC asked me to send him chapters as I was writing that. So rather than, it felt quite exposing, because I was sending him stuff which didn't feel quite finished, because it was kind of still a work in progress. I mean, so I had sort of AC waiting for the next chapter all the time. So it was that was a kind of spur to keep me going. He wasn't tapping his fingers waiting for it. But I mean, the whole thing with writer's block is interesting, because I think it's different for every writer. I'm not sure there is one cause of writer's block. I think it's different for different people. I mean, for me, there are times when I'm sitting at the keyboard and think, can't do this, and it's usually because, I mean, in this case, the expectation, I'm playing with some very beloved characters, and I'm sort of worried about what's the reception of these is this going to be? Am I going to spoil it for everybody if I get the characters wrong, or so there's that kind of expectation on it to get it right. And that was what caused me problems on this one. But again, there was the pressure to keep it going because the deadline was arriving. So deadlines are a great cure for writer's block. Also, I mean, just writing, I do what's a draft zero. So I write a draft zero, not even draft one. I will just get stuff down on the page and then fix it if it's not very good. So it's sort of just a question of actually getting something down to work with.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, the main cure for writer's block is a deadline.
Yeah, absolutely. And of course, yeah, AC, you stand accused of being a meanie.
No. Can I just say, AC is not a meanie at all. He's one of the nicest people I've ever worked for. Seriously, just in terms of working with a producer, it was a delight. It really was.
Well, you made it so incredibly easy, Bob, because you brought all your enthusiasm as a fan of Stingray, but more than that, you had done all of your homework, so you knew the ins and outs of pretty much everything, and there was never a question in my mind that you were going to have to sort of adjust things for characters because they weren't correct to what was in the show. That was never an issue that I had. And I think just the way that you described it there is sort of working through each part, starting with a draft zero, getting everything down. I think it worked really well. And then you were able to sort of refine it and say, oh, I think I'll change this bit. I want to improve this. I've just had a great idea for this. And I just loved seeing this come through and sort of see it evolve organically. And as you say, deadlines are a great motivator. And at least we had those to sort of keep us on track. And I certainly know from my side of things, coordinating the other stories, that deadlines are your friend, but also sometimes they can be your enemy as well.
Yeah. Absolutely.
There comes a time that you just got to let it go. You know, it's just okay, it's a deadline. I've done what I can, and you've just got to let it go now. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Well, we found out who it is who's calling you a meanie. It was in fact Willow.
I knew that. I knew that from context. I knew it couldn't be anyone else, so that's why I wasn't surprised.
Well, that's all right then. That's not a surprise at all. All right. Well, speaking of surprise, we should tease a little bit. So let's say, what's one moment from each of you that you, when you were writing on it or working on Project Orca, that you were like, people are gonna enjoy this. So what's one moment, Bob, that you were working on and you thought, yeah, this is Stingray. This is what it's all about.
Ooh,
no pressure.
I think there's a sequence about a third of the way in where, again, I don't think this is a spoiler because it's kind of happens in a lot of Stingray episodes. Extra Zero is trying a lot of different disguises in an attempt to get into Marineville. And that was great fun to write. That was, yeah.
Yes. What would we do without X20 and his disguises? My goodness me.
I think he's my favorite character in Stingray. So it was a pleasure to write for him. Yeah.
Love it. AC, how about you? Any moments that stand out that people can look forward to in Project Orca?
I'm not going to give too much away, but rather than a moment, much like in the Titanic and Stratagem, there is a brand new character, several new characters, but one particular new character introduced in Project Orca, who I'm not even going to mention what their name is or what their role in the story is, but they are a major character in the story. And I just know for a fact that readers are going to absolutely love to hit this character, which is exactly how they've been designed. And they're going to get under your skin. You're going to be shaking your head, shaking your fist at this character. And Bob has just done the most amazing job with them just to elicit this response. And I can't wait to hear what people think.
That's very nice of you to say. Yeah, that's again. He was good to write for as well. Yeah.
Well, I look forward to meeting that character. And as I say, Project Orca is available on the Jerry Anderson store right now. You can order your copy. Just head to shop.jerryanderson.com and it's right there on the homepage. It's the first thing that you see. So thank you very much, Bob, for sitting down to chat with us today, all about Project Orca and all things Stingray. It's been lovely to have you. Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you.
Lovely. Thank you. So, AC, we've talked about what's coming out today, which is Project Orca, as well as the audiobook for Titanic and Stratagem, we should say, has also come out today. We've talked about the comic anthology. We've talked about Marine Minutes. We've talked about Deadly Concerto, which is coming up at the end of the stream. And we've covered all of those things. Whew. Wow. It's like the shopping channel over here. But maybe instead of talking about what we have had, we should talk about maybe what's coming up next in the Deadly Uprising saga, because we've still got a few exciting chapters to come. Perhaps you can tell us a little bit about what's coming up in the coming months.
Absolutely. Well, as you say, we've had the wonderful Project Orca released today, and as you can see from our little roadmap here, or water map, or whatever I decided to call it the last time and can't remember, we have another episode of Marine Minutes called The Substitute. That's coming out very soon, so keep an eye on the Jerry Anderson YouTube channel for that. And we have got our second comic anthology, which is Battle Lines, coming out after that, along with another couple of episodes of Marine Minutes. But I'm suspecting that Battle Lines is what people will be interested in most.
Yes. What can you tell us about Battle Lines? What's maybe different about it from the comic anthology that we already have? What's new? What's new?
Well, we have another wonderful cover from Keith, who has put together another stunning image for us. Unfortunately, we can't tease that today, but keep an eye out for it because there's plenty of goodness involved there. As Comic Anthology 1 was dedicated largely to the TV Century 21 Stingray comics, Comic Anthology 2 will focus on the Stingray comics post-TV 21. So you're looking at things like Countdown and some of the later comics from the 1990s. And of course, it wouldn't be a Stingray comic anthology for the Deadly Uprising saga without 5 more Deadly Uprising stories peppered throughout its pages, different artists, different writers, and a lot of Deadly Uprising fun to be had. And of course, Comic Anthology 2 does have the distinction of being the thing that draws the entire Deadly Uprising story to a thrilling conclusion, which you're absolutely not going to want to miss.
Yeah, I'm judging from the title, Battle Lines. Maybe there's some sort of big battle coming up, perchance.
I think that's a fair assumption, Jack. Yes, things do get larger than life and larger than a television budget in the 1960s could ever possibly have hoped to show on screen. So that's probably the most action-packed piece that we have throughout the entire narrative.
Yep. Rob Slater pointing out that the 90s stuff was his first experience of Stingray comics and his first kind of Anderson memories. So, that's exactly what we want to cater for. We've had the TV 21 comics from the 60s, and now everyone who grew up with it in the 90s, of which I can say fairly confidently, AC, you yourself are of that vintage.
Absolutely, yes.
So, that's very much our era, so we're looking forward to seeing that, we're very much looking forward to seeing those comics beautifully presented in another anthology, and seeing the conclusion of the Deadly Uprising saga. I mean, what a fantastic way to celebrate 60 years of Stingray with all these new stories. We're very, very lucky, is all I can say. So I have to say thank you, AC, for putting all that work in to making this story happen. What's been a highlight for you so far across working on all of these different stories? What's been the thing that stood out to you?
Well, honestly, with no false modesty, Jack, it has been a pleasure to be working on this entire narrative. But I think the thing that I really want to get across is, as I sort of said earlier, I'm just kind of the guy that coordinates the running order of things and how the the general broad outline of the story unfolds. But I've got to work with so many incredibly nice, talented people who are so passionate about Stingray. You know, if it had just been up to me, you might have got like a little stick man on a page saying PWOR, and then that would have been it. There wouldn't be much more to it. But these artists and writers and designers of all kinds, they've just been amazing, and they bring so much love. And they're all fans of Stingray, of course. You know, they all wanted to jump at working on this project, and every one of them has said like how much fun they've had working on it. And just seeing all the different types of art and the writing, it's been fabulous. I would be very hard pressed to pick an absolute favorite part. And I think the thing that I most look forward to now is just finding out what people think of the story so far and what they're looking forward to most in the coming releases.
Absolutely. And speaking of coming releases, we do have one more thing that we're able to share today, which I'm sure a lot of people have already seen, but Bob was good enough to mention Chris Thompson's work on the technical manual for Stingray. So we're just going to have a quick look at the upcoming WASP Technical Operations Manual, which you can currently pre-order the special edition up on the Jerry Anderson store right now. Chris, unfortunately, he was going to join us this evening, but he is literally too busy working on this to come and join us. So Chris would sends his best, of course. He absolutely loves Stingray. AC, you worked on this as well, and are currently still working on it, I believe. It's all still coming together. So what can you tell us from your perspective people can look forward to in the WASP Technical Manual?
Well, this will be our 5th technical operations manual since we started releasing these through the Jerry Anderson store. And if you've enjoyed the previous manuals, thank you very much, my glamorous assistant, for demonstrating the Fireball and Joe 90 manuals there. If you've enjoyed the technical manuals to date, you can expect lots more of the similar glorious content that we've had in those. Chris's fantastic and detailed artwork, stunning throughout. We've got character biographies, we have weapons, the main hero vehicles, we've got some guest vehicles. I think you can just make out the downbeat from, is that Tune of Danger, Jack?
Oh yes.
Tune of Danger. And lots of things, lots of details about Marineville. And like other technical manuals, it sort of seeks to answer questions that we've had about the series that maybe were never answered on screen or in spin-off material. How certain things work, and there's always little Easter eggs here and there. If you know the series really well, you can hopefully read those and say, I see what they did there. That's enjoyable. And we certainly hope so anyway. And there's a special edition of the technical manual, of course, and you can see little hints of that in the image that you've got on screen there at the moment. So there's a lot to enjoy. And I love that cover image. It's so vibrant. And
I love how colorful it is. Yes.
I
love about whenever these front covers are revealed, I always just, the use of color on them is always so Chris and the team always do a great job of picking out just those really unique colors on all of the original models and just bring them to life. So yes, you can be certain that the technical manual literally right at this moment is being worked on, and everyone is trying their hardest to get this out as soon as possible. But it is a lot of work, a lot goes into it. AC's got to scribble away all about, which sections are you which sections are you particularly focusing on, AC? We usually talk to Chris about these things, so I'm giving you the opportunity to share what parts of it you are particularly focusing on.
Well, as in some of the previous ones that I've worked in, Jack, I will be working on the character bios for the main characters in the series, and also I have fleshed out a little bit about the details of Marineville, so you'll find out a little bit more about the control tower. If you've read the Fireball manual, I did the sort of Space City work in that part of the Space City and so forth. and then Chris will be leaning more towards the weapons and vehicles side of things. He's providing all the details. He's got such a wonderful imagination. I mean, sometimes I struggle to come up with reasons behind things, and he seems to do it so effortlessly. But then, of course, his artwork's a bit like that as well. And there's just so much detail in there.
Worth mentioning, as Bob suggested, the Orca from Deadly Uprising is also going to be featured in the technical manual, so you get to learn all about that as well. Jeffrey Page asks, is only the special version available? So right now on the Jerry Anderson store, the pre-orders for the special edition are live, but there will be a standard edition. Again, it's currently all being worked on, but we wanted to allow people as much time as possible to get in and order their special editions. So that's why that is up on the store. But the standard edition is coming, so you can stay tuned for that. Don't worry about that. Let's see. Friends Forever asks, what you're looking forward to most about the Stingray manual? AC, what are you looking forward to seeing? I'm personally, I'll tell you, what I really want to see is just all the really weird and wonderful alien subs that appear in Stingray, because there are some really out there designs. I'm thinking about things like the sub from A Christmas to Remember. That's a really kind of festive design. So I'm looking forward to seeing how Chris tackles that one. This is it. I'm just looking forward to seeing what Chris does with some of these things. So, but if I had to pick one thing, it's the sub from Christmas to Remember. I really want to see that one. What about you, AC?
The thing that I always find fascinating, and you can sort of see it in the bottom corner of the image there, is that every so often Chris will do one of these single page splash pages of just sort of a piece of art. So it's not like the technical version where you've got a small view of the craft. It's just the craft in situ. So we've got the downbeat submarine or the transport class vessel there surging through the water. And I remember the first time I saw one of these technical manuals, it was the Space 1999 one, and he'd done some beautiful shots of eagles just soaring over landscapes and things. So I just want to see what he's done with some of these amazing splash pages, because I know that I'll probably stop reading the book for a bit. I'll just be like, oh my gosh, like that needs to be a poster. Let's make this a poster. And I just can't wait to see what he's done with them.
Yeah, exactly. And you can be sure the special edition, I'm pretty sure, does come with some special artwork prints, among many other little goodies as well. So look out for those. But there we go. That was the Stingray Technical Operations Manual. I'm sure we'll be talking to Chris in a future live stream all about the technical manual. So stay tuned for that. Keep your eyes peeled on the Jerry Anderson YouTube channel and all Jerry Anderson social media for that. But that was our little presentation. Thank you everyone for joining us and listening in about Stingray Deadly Uprising. It's been fantastic. It's been quite the marathon to go through every single part of it. It is a lot, but again, just to say to viewers who are like, oh, there's a lot here, how do I keep up with it all? The good thing is that if say comic strips aren't your thing, you can just enjoy the novels or the audiobooks, or as we're about to see, the live performance as well. So people can dip in and out and see all the individual bits and enjoy them as they wish. But if you really want to get the full experience, you absolutely can. It really is adding up to be a very exciting piece altogether. So all I have to say is a big thank you to all of our guests, to Marc Silk, to Bob Ayres, to Keith Burns, to Chris Dale, and of course to you, Mr. Andrew Clements, for joining us all the way through. It's been lovely to have you here and to have you answering all of our questions. But as the little banner at the bottom of the screen has been teasing all the way through, we are about to sit down and watch Deadly Concerto. This is going to be a segment unique to this live stream. If you want to watch this later on, you can pick up the Blu-ray or the DVD of Stand By for Action 2. That is currently available for pre-order on the Jerry Anderson store. AC, Anything else you want to say to introduce Deadly Concerto before we say farewell to all of our lovely viewers and let them sit down and enjoy the show?
I just want to say I hope you all enjoy watching it. If you weren't able to be at the concert, you know you're going to be able to catch up right now. And as the video will show, the atmosphere on the night was terrific. I just really hope you enjoy it. And PWOR.
PWOR. Okay, see you all again soon and enjoy the show.